Good morning. There's a myth we've all been told that we need someone, that success, happiness, purpose only arrive when others walk beside us. But what if you didn't need permission, a partner or a team to begin? What if you could do it alone? Not because you should, but because sometimes you must. Let me show you how. Have you ever stood at the starting line of something new, a goal, a dream, a journey, and felt the electricity in the air, the excitement, the applause, the curious energy of others cheering you on? It's a beautiful moment. Everyone loves the beginning. People post about it, talk about it, celebrate it. There's this collective belief in possibility, in potential. But as the journey stretches forward, something happens. The crowd thins, the energy fades, the cheers get quieter. The same people who once celebrated you are now elsewhere, busy, distracted, or just gone. And there you are in the middle of your story, alone. But that is not where you fail. That is not where your journey ends. That's where it starts to matter. You see, the starting line is always crowded. Everyone shows up to dream, to plan, to imagine what could be. But few stay on the fence when the excitement wears off and the work begins, when doubt sets in and the answers aren't obvious, when it's no longer glamorous but gritty. That's the moment that separates those who fantasize from those who become. Think of J.K. Rowling, a young mother with no money, no support team, no guarantees. She didn't start with publishers lined up or critics predicting her success. She started with a baby, a pen, and a belief. While the world moved around her, she wrote in cafes while her child slept. Not because it was easy, but because something inside her whispered louder than the world's silence. That whisper, that belief is what sustained her. And that belief, it lives in you too. We often mistake solitude for isolation. We think being alone means something is wrong. But what if it means you're exactly where you're supposed to be? The middle of the journey isn't a punishment. It's the proving ground. It's where belief becomes real, where you either retreat or rise, where you build something not because others are watching, but because you must. When the noise dies down, you can finally hear yourself. You can hear your own voice, unfiltered by others' opinions, unmuffled by their expectations. That voice, that inner compass, is what guides you when the road twists and the map disappears. You don't need everyone. You don't need applause. You don't even need certainty. You just need to keep walking, keep writing, keep building, not for the crowd, for the calling. Because in that silence, in that space between what you started and where you're going, is something sacred. The transformation. You started with a spark, but it's the fire that will carry you through. Not everyone will understand it. Not everyone is meant to, but you were built for the middle. That's where you're not just creating a result. You're becoming someone new, stronger, clearer, braver. So yes, the starting line is crowded, but stay the course. The path clears quickly for a reason. It's not meant for everyone. It's meant for those who choose to keep going, even when no one's watching. Especially then, in today's fast-paced, hyper-connected world, we've been conditioned to believe that if we're not constantly engaging, speaking, reacting, then we're falling behind. That silence is awkward. That stillness is laziness. That solitude is loneliness. But what if the truth is exactly the opposite? What if the moments we spend alone, in quiet, are actually the birthplace of our greatest clarity, our most powerful ideas, and our most authentic selves? Noise has become a currency. We trade it like it adds value. Scrolling, swiping, reacting to every ping, every post, every update. We fill every empty moment with something. Music, podcasts, messages, content. We've become addicted to input. But clarity demands the opposite. It demands we listen, not to the world around us, but to the whisper within us that has been drowned out by all the noise. In a world that celebrates chaos, clarity is rebellion. You see, the truth is, when we're constantly surrounded by voices, opinions, suggestions, critiques, it becomes incredibly difficult to hear our own. Think about that for a moment. When was the last time you were truly alone with your thoughts? Not reaching for your phone, not checking your calendar, not thinking about how something would look on Instagram, but just being with yourself. That's where it begins. That's where purpose introduces itself. Not in the crowded rooms, not in the brainstorming sessions where egos and agendas collide, but in the stillness, in the quiet, in the solitude. There's a reason people like Steve Wozniak, the man who literally built the first Apple computer in his bedroom, have always understood the power of working alone. Not because they were antisocial, not because they couldn't collaborate, but because in solitude there is no pressure to perform, no obligation to impress, no need to fit into someone else's mold. There is only the work, the vision, and the freedom to pursue it without interference. Wozniak didn't wait for permission. He didn't call a meeting. He didn't need a committee. He had an idea, a belief in what was possible, and the space to bring it to life. We've come to believe that innovation is a team sport, and sure, collaboration has its place, but the genesis of innovation, the spark of a truly new idea, almost always happens in solitude. Think of the greatest breakthroughs in history, whether it's Einstein scribbling equations in isolation, or a poet staring out a window, trying to make sense of the human condition. It's not the room full of voices that changes the world. It's the person brave enough to sit in silence and listen to the one voice that matters most, their own. But this isn't just about inventors or geniuses. It's about you, because your truth, your purpose, it doesn't require a spotlight or a platform. It requires space. It requires the courage to step away from the noise and be still. And that's terrifying, isn't it? Because silence can be confronting. When there's nothing left to distract you, all that remains is you, your fears, your dreams, your doubts, your truths. But that's the point. That's where the magic is. When you finally stop running from yourself, you start becoming yourself. Clarity isn't given, it's uncovered. And the tool you need isn't a whiteboard or a Zoom call. It's a walk, a long drive, a journal, a breath. Something simple, something intentional, something quiet. You don't find direction in the chaos. You find it in the pause, that moment between the noise, when the world finally stops shouting, and you finally start hearing. And this isn't just some poetic philosophy. This is neuroscience. When your mind is constantly being bombarded with stimuli, it doesn't have the space to connect, to reflect, to imagine. But when you're in solitude, your brain starts to do something incredible. It starts to synthesize. It pulls together pieces you didn't even know were connected. It finds patterns. It uncovers meaning. It whispers truths that have been buried under emails and notifications and opinions. In those moments, the fog begins to lift. You remember who you are, why you started, what you actually believe. And that is clarity. Yet the irony is this: the more noise there is, the more we crave clarity. But we look for it in the very places that drown it out. We think if we just talk to more people, ask for more advice, run another poll, have another meeting, we'll find the answer. But the answer doesn't live out there. It lives in here. And to reach it, you have to be willing to sit with yourself, to hear the uncomfortable silence, and keep listening until something real begins to speak. It's not easy. Solitude feels countercultural. It's inconvenient. It's uncomfortable. But it's also necessary. Because until you know what your voice sounds like in the quiet, you'll always be chasing someone else's definition of success. You'll always be influenced by the loudest person in the room. You'll always be searching for validation instead of conviction. And here's the most beautiful part. When you find clarity, real clarity, it doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it just is. It settles in your chest like a steady heartbeat. It informs your choices. It guides your steps. It allows you to walk into chaos with peace, to face doubt with confidence, to pursue your purpose with fire. And that is powerful beyond measure. So the next time the world tells you to move faster, speak louder, show more, resist the urge, choose silence, choose stillness, choose solitude. Not because the world needs another loud voice, but because it needs more clear ones. Voices that come from a place of truth, of conviction, of deep undisturbed thought. If you want to do something that matters, if you want to make something that lasts, if you want to lead in a way that transforms, start by being alone, start by listening, start by stepping away from the noise. Not forever, but long enough to hear what truly matters. Because in that space, in that stillness, you don't just find clarity, you find you. Let's be honest, support is beautiful. Community, encouragement, a kind word when you're down. Those things matter. They warm our spirits and help us feel. But when the storm really hits, when no one texts back, when your phone is silent, when you're staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering if you're crazy for even trying, support isn't always there. The world can grow cold in an instant, and the people you thought would hold your hand might not even see the struggle you're drowning in. And in that silence, in that void, you're left with one thing. It's in those raw, stripped-down moments where no one is watching and nothing is guaranteed that resilience is born. Not the kind of resilience that shows up well in Instagram captions or keynote speeches, but the kind that digs its roots deep in your soul. The kind that whispers, "Get up," when everything in you wants to stay down. That's the stuff of legacy, not applause, not external validation, willpower. Think about Jan Koum, rejected by over 30 investors and 30 conversations that ended with a no, or worse, silence. But instead of letting rejection define him, he let it refine him. He went back to the drawing board alone. No fanfare, no entourage, just him and the problem he believed he could solve. And he did. He built and 2 years later he sold it for $19 billion. Not because the world finally understood him, but because he never gave up when it didn't. That resilience, it wasn't built on a stage. It was built in a quiet room staring at broken code, blinking through fatigue, with no promise of success, just belief. The kind of belief that most people will never see because it happens behind closed doors, in solitude, in stillness. We have this myth that greatness is built in the spotlight, but the truth, it's forged in the shadows, when you're all out of options, and still choose to keep moving. When the people you love don't understand the path you're on, and you walk it anyway. When the doubts are louder than the dreams, but you still show up. And that's what makes you unstoppable. Not perfection, not ease, but the quiet courage to face the darkness alone, and say, "This is mine to fight." You are more capable than you know, not because others say so, but because you've proven it to yourself again and again, in moments no one else will ever witness. Resilience isn't about how loud you roar. It's about how long you whisper to yourself, "Keep going," even when no one else is listening, especially then. Let's pause here. Let's really stop and take a breath, because this is where the truth gets uncomfortable and where transformation begins. Loneliness. It's one of those things we're told to avoid at all costs. We associate it with abandonment, with rejection, with not being chosen. And because we fear it so deeply, we sometimes choose comfort over courage, company over calling. But what if I told you loneliness isn't a curse? What if I told you it's not a punishment, but a part of the process? Doing it alone doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're choosing progress in the absence of applause. It means you're brave enough to keep moving forward without validation, without recognition, without someone constantly telling you you're on the right path. That's not weakness. That's strength in its rawest, rarest form. Because here's the truth most people avoid. The beginning of every extraordinary journey feels lonely. Not because it's wrong, but because it's different. Because you're going where others haven't dared to go yet. You're building something no one else has seen. You're crafting a life, a mission, a vision that hasn't existed before. And innovation is always lonely at first. Every person who's ever dared to do something meaningful has faced this season. Not just moments, whole seasons. Long, quiet nights, days when doubt was louder than hope, moments when turning back seemed easier than pushing forward. But they kept going. And not because they were superhuman, not because they never felt fear or pain or isolation, but because they knew something we forget, that loneliness is temporary, but regret is forever. Think of Nelson Mandela, 27 years in prison, 27. That's nearly 3 decades of silence, of being cut off from the world, of being treated like his voice didn't matter. And yet he didn't waste it. He didn't crumble under the weight of isolation. He used it. He learned. He planned. He transformed his solitude into strength, into strategy, into a story that would one day reshape an entire nation. Mandela didn't wait for the world to understand him before he acted. He didn't wait for the crowd to approve before he stepped forward. He embraced the silence. He found wisdom in the stillness. And when the world finally caught up, because it always does, it found a man who was ready, who had been forged in fire, not applause. That's the invitation of loneliness. It's not here to break you. It's here to build you. You see, when you're alone, there's no one else to blame. but also no one else to hold you back. You meet yourself in the silence. You hear your own voice, not the noise of 1,000 opinions. And if you listen closely, you'll find that your soul has been whispering truths all along. Truths that get drowned out in the crowd, but sing in solitude. When you're alone, you get to ask, what do I really want? What kind of life am I building? Am I creating from conviction or from convenience? Am I being true to myself or just trying to fit in? These are the questions that shape destiny, and they can only be answered in the quiet. And the quiet isn't cruel. It's clarifying. It burns away the distractions. It strips you down to the essential. It teaches you to be fueled by purpose, not praise. That's when you know you're on the right path. When you keep going, not because someone is watching, but because you believe in where you're headed. Because eventually, yes, eventually others catch up. The world begins to notice. The people who once questioned you now admire you. The ones who stood still now try to keep up. But by then, you've changed. You've been forged by your willingness to begin alone. And that's something no one can take away. We live in a culture obsessed with instant connection, constant validation, and the need to be seen. But what if the most powerful growth happens when no one is looking? What if the roots of your future success are planted in the soil of solitude? What if this season, this moment, this quiet, lonely path is exactly what you need? Don't mistake solitude for exile. Don't confuse silence with failure. This isn't the end of your story, it's the proving ground. It's where your identity strengthens, where your purpose crystallizes, where your voice finds its true tone. Some of the most iconic achievements in history started with a single person, alone, with a vision no one else could see, alone, with a belief no one else understood, alone, with a calling too big to be confined by the opinions of others. So if you're in that place now, if you're walking alone, if the nights are quiet and the days are heavy, take heart. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. Prepared for something larger than life, something bold, something breathtaking. And it's okay if no one else sees it yet. You do, and that's enough. Start alone. Start afraid. Start unsure, but start. Because if you can be faithful in the season of loneliness, you'll be unstoppable when the world finally catches on. So embrace it, walk it, own it, and know that this isn't your prison, it's your preparation. The people you're meant to lead, to inspire, to uplift, they're not ready yet, but you are becoming, you are rising, you are doing the hard thing now so that when the time comes you'll be the one standing strong. Not because you never walked alone, but because you learned how, and that, right there is the power of loneliness. It's not a sentence, it's a season, and seasons always change. Here's the irony we rarely talk about in a world obsessed with collaboration, partnerships, and community. Real connection begins, not the kind that's fueled by rebellion or defiance, but the quiet, unwavering kind, the kind of independence that isn't loud, doesn't demand attention, and doesn't need validation. It's a quiet, bold decision to move forward when no one is clapping, when no one is looking, when no one is even sure what you're doing or why you're doing it. Because here's what most people miss. The more you rely on others to move, the more frozen you become. It's not that support is bad. It's not that community doesn't matter. But when the first step forward is always conditional on someone else saying yes, on someone else understanding you, agreeing with you, encouraging you, you've already surrendered your power. You've given away your engine. You're not leading anymore. You're waiting. The truth is, people don't follow those who wait. People follow those who move. When you begin that blog, that business, that nonprofit, that movement, when you begin anything with no audience and no approval, something powerful starts to happen. First, it's just you and your vision. It's you sitting at the kitchen table late at night, typing words no one will read yet. It's you investing your time, your energy, your soul into something you believe in, something no one else can quite see yet. And that feels lonely at first. But loneliness isn't a curse. It's a filter. It reveals whether you're doing it for them, or if you're doing it because you believe it matters, whether or not they ever come. And that is where the magic begins. Because when someone sees a person moving without applause, without recognition, and without reward, what they see is authenticity. What they witness is integrity. In a world full of noise, of marketing, of constant attention-seeking behavior, someone simply walking their path with consistency and calm is magnetic. It's rare. It's inspiring. You don't have to scream to be heard. You don't have to beg people to understand. Just do it when no one is watching. Do it when everyone is doubting. Do it when even you question if it's making a difference. Keep showing up. Keep writing. Keep building. Keep creating. People are watching, even when you think they're not. And they're not just watching your results. They're watching your character. You see, leadership isn't about charisma or followers. It's about courage. It's about being willing to walk alone. Not because you want to be alone, but because you're willing to. That willingness is the foundation of trust. It's what tells others this isn't a trend. This isn't a popularity contest. This is something I believe in deeply. So deeply that I will carry it alone, if I must. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you do that, you rarely stay alone. The right people begin to show up. Not all at once and not always with grand fanfare. But they come. And when they do, they don't come out of pity or pressure. They come because they believe too. They've watched you. They've seen that you're not chasing attention. You're pursuing something meaningful, and now they want to be a part of it. Those people are not guessing why they're joining you. They're not still deciding whether or not you're real. They've already seen it. In your silence, in your perseverance, in your grit. They've seen the way you kept building when no one was paying attention. That's what made you real to them. That's what gave them permission to believe. Because your independence didn't build a wall. It built a beacon. There's a deeper form of connection that doesn't come from trying to get people to agree with you. It comes from doing the thing anyway, doing it quietly, consistently, and with integrity. When people see you standing strong in your values, moving toward a vision with or without their support, it doesn't push them away, it draws them closer. Because in a world of noise and hype, people are starved for something real. And what's more real than a person willing to walk alone? That kind of leadership speaks to something inside all of us. It speaks to the part of us that's tired of pretending, tired of performing, tired of being liked but not known. It speaks to the part of us that longs for purpose, for truth, for something that doesn't change based on applause. It shows us that maybe we don't have to wait for approval to start moving. Maybe we just have to start. You want people to walk with you. Start walking. You want people to believe in you. Believe first. You want people to join your cause, support your vision, share your dream. Show them it's real by doing it without them. Not out of spite, not out of arrogance, but out of love, out of commitment, out of clarity. Because when you move with that kind of conviction, people will follow, not because you asked them to, but because they saw something in you they wanted to find in themselves. It's a myth that doing it alone means being alone. It doesn't isolate you forever. It just proves the path is worth walking. And when the time is right, when your consistency has laid the foundation, the doors will open, the right people will come, and they won't just walk behind you. They'll walk beside you, because they've seen the trail you've already blazed. They know it's real. The most powerful movements, the most authentic connections, the most inspiring leadership. It all starts the moment someone decides to move without waiting for permission, to act without applause, to believe without evidence. That's the kind of independence that doesn't repel connection. It invites it, because people don't follow noise. They follow clarity. They follow courage. They follow conviction. So if you're standing at the edge, wondering if it's worth starting, wondering if anyone will care, wondering if anyone will ever join you, just begin. Do it alone. Do it quietly. Do it consistently. They'll notice. They'll respect it. They'll be drawn to, and eventually they'll join you. So here's the truth. You may not have the perfect partner. You may not have the investors. You may not have the applause, but you do have the dream. You do have the will. And most importantly, you do have yourself. You can do it alone, not because you have to, but because you're strong enough to. And one day, when you look back, you'll see that walking alone wasn't the hard part. It was the beginning of everything. Thank you.